Welcome, dear student, to this short tutorial focused on instant writing. Let's start by providing a short definition about this type of writing. It refers to writing on the spot without much in the way of preparation or warning. One of the characteristics of this type of writing is that it can be used whenever the teacher feels it is appropriate. There are different activities that we can use in order to make our students work with this type of writing. The first one is sentence writing, in which we can use dictating sentences for completion, writing sentences, and also the weather forecast. Referring to dictating sentence for completion, it's important to say that the activity refers to that teachers can dictate part of a sentence which students have to complete about themselves. So, for example, the teacher can start writing "my favorite restaurant is," and the student needs to complete this sentence. The other one is writing sentences. Here, teacher asks students to write 2 or 3 sentences about a certain topic. For example, if students are discussing education, then they can write sentences about the positive aspects of taking exams. The weather forecast. So this activity can be used at the beginning of the class. So maybe the teacher can ask students to write about themselves and their days as if they were writing a weather forecast. For example, the teacher can ask the question, "What is the weather like now?" And the students need to answer this question. Another way of instant writing is using music. For example, here we have different activities such as words, what is the composer describing, film scores, how does it make me feel, and also musical stories. In the case of words, teachers can play music, a piece of music, and students have to write down any words that come into their heads as they listen. So, for example, the teacher can use in the classroom or can bring to the classroom classical music. What is the composer describing? In this opportunity, students are told that in a piece of music they are about to hear, the composer is trying to describe something specific. So while listening to the music, they have to write down whatever they hear in the music. For example, Vivaldi famously describes the season. In the case of film scores, the teacher can ask students to listen to a piece of music and then create the opening scenes for a film that the music suggests to them. So in this case, the teacher can use the film music. How does it make me feel? Is an activity in which teachers can play students musical excerpts and get them to write their reactions as they listen. So while they are listening to the song, or after they have listened to the song, a student can a teacher can ask, "What color do you think the music is?" So for example, if the student answer black, it means that the music made them feel sad. Musical stories. Here, teacher can ask students to write stories on the basis of music they listen to. So the teacher can dictate the first line of a story, and then the students need to complete and to create the story using the line that teacher has provided them. So, for example, he turned and looked at her. This can be the sentence that students can use in order to start their story. Another way is using pictures. Here there are different activities such as describing pictures, suspects and objects, write a postcard, portraits, and story tasks. In the case of describing pictures, students have to write a description of one of the pictures that the teacher is going to bring to the class, and then she or he is going to show them. In the case of suspect and object, teacher has to give students a variety of pictures and ask students to write about only one of them. So here we have an example, and the students have to look at this different pictures, and then they have to give their descriptions to another student who has to identify which picture is being described. Another activity that is very interesting and students like is writing the postcard. So here you have to give students postcard scenes, and then we have to ask them to write a postcard which they would expect to write to an English speaking friend from such a location. Portraits. Here, teacher asks students to write a letter to a portrait, asking the character questions about his or her life and explaining why they are writing to them. Story tasks. Here, students can be given a series of pictures of random objects, and after that, a teacher needs to tell them to choose 4 of them and then write a story which connects them. Here, I have provided objects related to a party. So you can use the same or you can use different ones, and students are going to enjoy it a lot, this activity a lot. Another way is to write poems. So here we have acrostic poems, alphabetic poems, stem frame poems, metaphor generators, and also model poems. In the case of acrostic poems, let's mention first the definition, which is where the first letters of each line, when read down words, form a word. Okay, so here we have an example of acrostic poems in which the author has used the name of a person. In stem frame poems, a teacher can give students a sentence or phrase stems or frames for them to complete, in which, when completed, make something that is almost a poem. For example, we can start providing I like, and then students need to complete this sentence because, and then they need to give the reason, okay? So in the case of metaphor generators, the activity consists of making students think of someone they love. Then they need to write that person's name at the top of the page. After they have done this, they have to start the first line with the word you. After that, teachers need to ask students to write about their person as if they were a kind of food. And finally, they can end up with something which can often be extremely meaningful. Another way is to provide students with a model poem, which needs to be brought by the teacher, and then we can ask students to write about the same themes of the poem the teacher has selected, and use the same poetic forms. Okay, this is all for today. The book that I have used is How to Teach Writing by Jeremy Harmer. Thank you.